Now over Mattapoisett after that tornado touched down in that area. And look at this mess. Huge tree in this pool here. And I know, Sarah, you mentioned dozens of trees are reported down. And this is the kind of damage we're seeing.
You know, we did get a report from, of course, we have such an amazing spotter network. SkyEye spotter came in with a report of 50 trees down in Mattapoisett. And sure enough, this is just one instance where we have a tree down. Unfortunately, this is on a property owner. This is going to be a mess to sort of pick up. But there were a number of trees down, but also ripped up. And when you start to look at the pattern of which these trees are down, when you get multiple trees in the same direction, then you know it would be straight line winds. But when you get multiple trees going in different directions, that's when you start to see that spin, and that's more indicative of a tornado. But if you look into the side of this image, now that we're zoomed out, you can actually see some of the leaves and of some of the branches of the other trees around. I mean, this one just might have been that the wind was strong enough to knock that particular tree down. Right. It might have been, you know, the ground pretty saturated. It may not have been well rooted.
Well, we've had so much rain, right? It's been so wet. And
exactly.
The winds came, and that probably knocked it right over through that fence.
And this is a better, when you're zooming out, now you're actually seeing more damage. Now you're looking at closer towards the home, and you can actually see that damage right there. So, and look at more trees down. Now that is showing almost like a path. You're seeing trees knocked down in different directions. You can actually see trees laying in different, oh, that one's right over a roof right there. That's unfortunate. Wow. But that tree is, you know, in a different direction than the one that we're zooming in with its branches. And obviously the utility crews are going to have a lot of work ahead of them. But this looks like to be in a pretty good area where we potentially could have seen that tornado.
Question for you, Sarah. Yeah. How does the National Weather Service determine the EF rating and then the path and where it went?
They have people out there. The National Weather Service has sent a crew out there, and they will go look at the radar first and see where they, you know, when they put out that warning, where it looked as though we saw that rotation, and that's where they'll start. And they'll go along that path, and they'll travel along till they see damage, and they'll continue going along that path as long as property owners allow them on the property to look at the trees and see the pattern in which they lay down. I was fortunate enough many years ago, I was able to go with the National Weather Service as they were doing a survey, and I got to talk to them about how they do it. And it is really, it's a process. And especially when you have a tornado that's on the ground for a longer period of time, because they need to go through each point and document the damage. And of course, I mean, you can see this. This is just pretty incredible right now.
Wow, look like that ripped right through that roof.
You know, it's just so unfortunate. You know, I haven't heard of any injury reports right now. And it's always unsettling when you have a tornado warning and the tornado looking as it did on radar in a residential area. But from my knowledge, we've had, of course, damage to some sheds and some homes and obviously pools. We've also had a lot of damage to some trees, but I have yet to hear of any injuries from a tornado. But I mean, this is going to just be a big cleanup. You also sometimes with tornadoes, you can actually see the tops of the trees where the root sort of stays there, but the tops of the trees get ripped out. So you sort of, it looks like a toothpick just standing there. And so I did see a picture where we had a couple trees laying down, and then you had those toothpicks sort of still standing there, just showing the force of the wind. And that's how the National Weather Service will also determine by the damage. Really, tornadoes are rated after by how much damage they cause, and with that, you can see how strong the winds are. It is an estimate. You know, they have to estimate what the force could potentially be. But this is pretty incredible images that you're seeing in Mattapoisett right now. This is SkyEye over the potential path of this confirmed tornado. This tornado touched down just before lunchtime between 11:20 to 11:30. Of course, we're going to get the exact times from the National Weather Service as they go back and look at the analysis. And if it's an intense tornado, we could also be talking about a longer period of time for them to come out with their survey analysis because they have to look through all the data. They have to look through all the warnings. They have to look through all the damage. And again, sometimes property owners really don't want other people on their property. Well, this is a big headache for them. But the quicker they can sort of look at this, and honestly, they'll also look at the video that's sent in from viewers or from people. Potentially look at this video right here to be able to see which direction the trees are laying down on the ground. And again, if they're in different directions, it's just that is showing the path of this tornado.
And they look for that telltale sign, right, Sarah, that the tops of the trees are sort of torn as if you've grabbed a head of romaine lettuce and just torn it in a circular fashion.
Yeah, you look for sort of some stripping. Like I said, the trees look more like toothpicks. Everything kind of gets ripped apart. And they will look for that sort of marking on it too. This is something that it will take some time through, but videos like this are extremely helpful for them, because if they can't get to, let's say, a property owner, maybe they don't want them on there, they can look at least this video and be like, okay, this is still the path.
Well, and as you mentioned, we saw there on the street, lots of utility crews will be having to work across Mattapoisett all this afternoon, probably into the evening, restoring power in some spots. And you can see in this kind of wooded neighborhood, so far we've seen that tree through a roof, a tree right in someone's swimming pool. There are going to be a lot of calls to insurance companies today, and those utility crews are going to be at it for quite some time.
I mean, from my look at this, you know, sometimes we'll say, okay, it could be a microburst, strong winds. You can actually see, look at the trees right here to the left before SkyEye goes. It's ripped. It was literally ripped from the top. So the tree can still be rooted, right? But when the winds from the top just rip it off, that is such a telltale time, or, you know, a telltale that this is a tornado that came through this area. And again, they are cleaning up. So this is the challenge too with the National Weather Service, beating the cleanup crews.
Right.
Because they need to see which way that these trees are laying down before they clean it up, but this road is impassable. So the crews just have to do their job right now and let these people that live in this location be able to get through.
And you can see the tops of the trees, the branches are torn away, but then the whole ball root is up and out of the ground. It's been so wet, right? We had so much rain. There was so much rain overnight into this morning. Then when those strong winds came, those trees just couldn't withstand that.
You look to the right of the screen right now, it's hard to see, but you're looking at the forest, all those trees sort of all meshed together. That is not they're not laying down in one direction. That's the path of the tornado right there. It is clear to me where you can see this tornado was going through. We just lost SkyEye, but that's pretty I mean, it is pretty telling right there.
It certainly is. There's so much work left to be done. Sarah Blesky, thanks for your expertise and your analysis as we look at that path of destruction right there through that wooded area. You can just see how those trees were shorn from the top by those high winds.
And you can see that they're going in one direction on one side and another direction on the other. So you can tell which way the winds were rotating by the way that the trees have fallen down. And like you said, you can see the roots just completely ripped up.
I'm reminded of the aftermath of that Springfield tornado 12 years ago, when for years you could see the path of destruction going right across the Mass Pike. I mean, it's just as clear as day the way those trees lie down. All right, Sarah, thanks so much. We know you'll have more throughout the afternoon.